Very interestingly, there's also been massive developments elsewhere in the backline because all of a sudden Liverpool have emerged as front runners for Crystal Palace centre back Marc Guehi. So that kind of came out of nowhere. And I wanted to ask you what sort of fee would Liverpool see as reasonable? Because obviously he has 1 year left on his contract, and Crystal Palace have reportedly turned down offers of 60, 70 million pounds in the not too distant past. But obviously, with that 1 year left on his deal, that price is going to be reduced. So, are we talking about in the region of 50 million pounds would be seen as acceptable, or would it have to be something much below that?
I think £50 million would probably where Crystal Palace are going to want to pitch it. I think Liverpool will be probably much closer to 40 in terms of where they'll approach things from. So I guess that's where the kind of negotiation will start. I've not had anything that this is definitely a concrete one that they definitely kind of, he definitely liked and is an option. But in terms of, out and out negotiations ongoing right now, I'm not entirely sure, but definitely a player they like. So I think they need a signal from Palace that there is a negotiation to be had, and it's not going to be a case where it drags on all summer as they did with Newcastle a couple of seasons ago, and kind of that just never went anywhere in the end. So, it's an interesting one though that they like him. I think because I think it kind of says something. I wrote something about this actually yesterday. I think it just says something about the kind of change in transfer policy at Liverpool as well, because so used to them not even considering a centre half that didn't kind of win 65% of their aerial duels over the past few years. And you kind of thought, oh, that's a Liverpool thing. That's what their recruitment staff think. But I think clearly now we're seeing that it's maybe more of a Jurgen Klopp thing than anything else, because, Dean Howson's aerial duel success rate wasn't incredible. It was better than Guehi, by the way, but it wasn't incredible. And that's kind of changed. And we're seeing with Guehi now that, they're clearly okay with having at least one of the centre halves not being absolutely aerially dominant. So that's a little bit of an interesting kind of feature, and things are slightly changing in terms of how Liverpool approach the window. So been taken by surprise, I have to say, a little bit by this link, but he is, without doubt, a very good player. And he'd be ideal because he's homegrown. He's only 24, nearly 25. But already vastly experienced and good on the ball as well. Very good dribbler, actually, for a centre half. So loads to like about him as a player. So would be a smart signing, I think. But of course, like I say, a lot will depend on kind of how hardline Crystal Palace are. And they might even be willing to lose him on a free next summer, really, and keep hold of him to go and compete in Europe. So we'll have to see whether their stance softens.
I guess if you want to look at a more modern example where someone's been playing who's not necessarily been dominant in the air, Saliba's not the best aerially, but Arsenal still managed to finish second 3 consecutive seasons. So, it can work. And considering the extra quality that Liverpool have, maybe it's just a case of mitigating someone's weaknesses with someone's strengths. So it's not necessarily something that's too much of a concern, but we'll see what happens moving forward.
Do you know what? Saliba's a great shout, actually, because he can get kind of, if you expose him, you can get him in that way. But how many teams have exposed Arsenal, really? I mean, their biggest weakness is they can't score. I mean, they don't concede many. It's been a long time since they've conceded 3 in a Premier League game, isn't it? So that just shows you that you can mitigate for it, as you say. Your only slight worry is that you're making the team as a whole smaller. Liverpool are losing a bit of height everywhere. With some of the additions. I mean, Kirkes isn't the biggest, Frimpong isn't the biggest. If you add Guehi into that, then you've still got McAllister in the team. Florian Wirtz isn't the tallest either. So yeah, he's kind of, they're going to have to add, I think, some height somewhere, and maybe that's the kind of forward that the ad needs to be 6'6" or whatever. I don't know what about Weghorst is doing, but that's the concern. Is kind of taking the team as a whole. But I'm sure it's something Liverpool are thinking about as well.